super. I'm really honored to be here tonight. I mean, not only for the first anniversary of DASER, which is really, really wonderful, great achievement on JD's part. Also, it's the 50th anniversary of the NASA art program, and so we're very excited about that, so I'm happy to share a little bit about 50 years through art. It's also the 50th anniversary on this weekend of John Glenn's mission, so of his famous mission. So it's really an exciting opportunity to talk to you tonight. I'm going to start actually with the Mercury program. Now, NASA started an art program in 1962. The administrator of NASA at the time, his name was James Webb, and he thought that artists could bring unique insight into the into space exploration, because he thought that space exploration would be an important era of history, and what's the residue of important eras of history is often art. So someone actually had the vision to commission artists. They've always gotten very little money, and they still do, and in fact, we're not even commissioning anymore right now because we have no budget. But at the time, artists like Norman Rockwell and Robert Rauschenberg got about $700 or $800, and I think the commissions went up to like $2,500 or $3,000 at the most. So it's always been a very humble, very, very humble art collection. So here we go. So this is sort of the beginning of the Mercury era. This is a piece by Paul Kelly, and it's called Power to Go, or Power. He did two of them. And it's actually, the idea is that when the launch of the rocket goes up, you experience it through color and through power. I'm going to quickly go through these because I have quite a few, and I know we're running a little bit late. This is Mitchell Jameson, and again, this is a wonderful piece. Mitchell was actually a DC artist. He was represented by Hans Spotter here in town, and he did this enormous, it looked like a stained glass cathedral window of a Mercury astronaut, you know, in all of his heroic regalia there, and it's just sort of the He-Man machismo of the astronaut from the 1960s, and this is very much the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo astronauts. They sort of have this sort of myth about them. Norman Rockwell did a piece. He actually did a few pieces for NASA that are now residing at the Air and Space Museum. I might as well tell you that actually we have about 3,000 works in the collection. NASA has about 820. The rest of them are over at the Air and Space Museum. They were taken over there in the 70s for safekeeping when we hit a lull between the Apollo era and the shuttle era. We're actually reaching a lull now because it's the end of the shuttle era, and we're not commissioning right now, but we're doing some projects, which I'll talk about after. But anyway, Norman Rockwell was loaned a NASA spacesuit, and the technician that had to stay with the suit 24/7 in Norman Rockwell's studio in Stockbridge is actually painted in the piece, and it's this gentleman, I think, right, that one right there. And anyway, so Norman Rockwell did this piece, and again, it's very Rockwellian. And here's Norman Rockwell down at the Kennedy Space Center. And this is Bob Mccall, who's a big space artist, and this is Apollo 8. I'm going to keep on going because I have quite a few of these. This is Jamie Wyatt. Actually, Andrew Wyatt was actually also commissioned by NASA, but then he wanted to make it quiet, and someone actually spilled the beans that he was going down to the launch, and he said, I'm not having anything to do with it. So Jamie came, which was great, and he did this piece. Robert Rauschenberg down. He did his famous Stoned Moon series. For more reasons, the adjective is very apropos, apparently, for when he was down at Kennedy Space Center, sitting in the weeds there privately. But he was down there and was there for Apollo 11 and for the first shuttle launch, and documented both. And there's his Hot Shot, which is actually a wonderful piece, part of the Stoned Moon series. This is a wonderful piece by Mitchell Jameson. Again, he's the guy who did that big heroic cathedral-like piece in the beginning. And this shows another side of the astronaut, which is complete terror and fear. And it was yet another way of looking at space exploration, that, you know, these guys are human and women are human, and they also have a lot of fear, I'm sure, when they're going up into space. This is a great moment by Paul Kelly of Neil Armstrong hopping on the moon. And now we're moving now towards Andy Warhol, who did a piece called Moonwalk 1, taking the iconic image of Buzz Aldrin on the moon and making it neon pink. Yet another sort of interpretation of that famous moment. And Jack Perlmutter was also another DC artist in the area, and he created this work on the space shuttle. I think it's quite wonderful because it's very graphic, and the space shuttle itself as a piece of hardware has a sort of graphic, sort of indelible sort of look, and I think it sort of captures it in this piece. Martin Hoffman, ultra realist, really great. This is like from the early, in the middle of the 80s actually. And this little thing right here is called the NASA worm. That is no longer our logo, but in the 1970s, we switched to that logo, which actually I like better than the current one. But it sort of evokes the whole era of the early shuttle era, and it's quite wonderful. Annie Leibovitz did a piece on Eileen Collins. Annie, we're very, very excited to have this in the collection. We actually almost had the Apollo 11 astronauts photographed by her as well, but two of the three of them agreed to do it for the 40th anniversary of their mission, but the third one said no way. So then she canceled. It's unfortunate, these things happen. And Jean Quick-to-See Smith, Native American artist, did a great piece of a traditional cut-wing dress representing Earth. Symbols of Native American culture around it are just sort of floating, and then a little astronaut there in the corner. And it's quite a wonderful piece. Chikaya Booker did an absolutely, this is like one of my favorite pieces. It's in honor of the Columbia mission, the one that we lost in 2003. As you remember, when the STS-107 crew came down, we lost them actually on landing. And what she did was she actually incorporated in this sort of speckled thing right there. You see that speckled piece? It's extremely heavy, so she only put one piece in there. An actual shuttle tire from an earlier Columbia mission. And it's really wonderful because it looks like a black star of morning. And actually Michael O'Sullivan from the Washington Post said that it also looked like a tire blowout, which is actually pretty intense. So it's true. It's a very powerful piece. William Wegman did a piece with us using stereo cartons, making us International Space Station. And his signature Weimaraner dogs are in there, Chip and Batty. And it's a really fun piece. It's a big triptych. And we actually were able to work with the DC Metro to put two porcelain enamel pieces that are circles in the L'Enfant Plaza Metro. So actually, if you get out of L'Enfant Plaza, you'll see one is actually a version of this waving astronaut, and the other one has another dog in a space station. And it worked out very well because it still lives and breathes this piece in public art, as public art. Via Selmans, we're very lucky to have commissioned her. She did a piece based on a Hubble image of a deep field galaxy, excuse me. So very, very deep space, wonderful piece. Doug and Mike Starr did a piece for the SOHO mission documenting the sun. I have a great quote from them, but it's rather long and lengthy, and I know we don't have a lot of time. So, but maybe we'll talk about it later. Russell Croteau, very great artist and from LA area. He did a piece. He went to Mount Wilson in California to look at Mars, and he then looked at a bunch of Mars Global Surveyor imagery, and he created a number of pieces, and this was one of them. And he just kind of did sort of, stream of conscious sort of poetry on the back of the piece, and it's actually quite wonderful. What I want to actually talk about is that a lot of the artists, they're given sort of, when they are commissioned by NASA, given a backdoor view. A lot of them speak to astronauts about what it's like being in space, or they'll meet with scientists to learn about some sort of mission or program. And it's really a wonderful opportunity for those artists to be able to sort of really imbue themselves with what NASA might be all about, or a subject of NASA. Evie Day actually was down at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. She's so enamored, the scientists were so enamored with her that they gave her a sample tire from Spirit and Opportunity, one of the rovers. It wasn't the actual one that went to Mars, which was one of the samples, which still is a big deal. She took it back home and created a Marscape within the little tire. And you look inside, and there's a Pathfinder image behind it, and then it's sort of this organic life, and it sort of grapples with the question of, is there life on Mars or not? And it's a really fun piece. And this is Con and Selesnik. They've actually exhibited here quite a bit at Martin Irvine, I think. They did a piece, sort of a conceptual piece of life on Mars. and what it might look like in the future. We don't really do a lot of conceptual pieces. Basically, the idea of the program was to document the history of the agency as you went on. So over the years, over the 50 years, you sort of see a story of NASA unfold, and that's really the beauty of it. That is sort of a documentation of 50 years of exploration. So I'm going to end with a couple little snippets. One here is a piece that we commissioned the Kronos Quartet when we had more of a budget, together with other organizations. But the Kronos created a piece called Sun Rings. Terry Riley wrote the music, and it was based on something called the plasma wave experiment from the Voyager mission. It was the 25th anniversary of Voyager, and there were a lot of sort of clicking and space sounds that were made from one of the experiments on Voyager. Voyager is still actually out there floating way beyond. And it was really great because Terry also engaged Alice Walker. He used a poem, one of her poems, and in the piece, as well as Willie Wilson, who did a lot of concerts for U2 and for other bands. He actually did the visuals for the piece. So it's this big, huge multimedia experience. It has never come to DC, which is an unfortunate thing. I think I've always hoped it would. It has been to New York and has traveled around, but never made it to DC. And then, just another thing we do a lot, we tend to do our wonderful concerts. We've done a couple with the National Symphony and with members of the National Symphony, and this was one with conductor Emile Decoux. And this one was a salute to Apollo for the 40th anniversary. We've had a lot of artists, we've had a lot of singing musical talent. Chaka Khan's done stuff with us. Herbie Hancock also did some stuff with us. And Diana Krall also did stuff with us for this anniversary. And I noticed that JD put her music on at the beginning, which was pretty cool. And basically, we try to do this every once in a while. We had Nora Jones for an event a couple months ago for the Apollo astronauts when they got the Congressional Gold Medal. Anyway, and that's it. I have one other little thing, because I know we have to move on, and that is Stephen Prouse. Back in '99, he was sort of a disciple of Andy Warhol, and he became quite the fashion designer and artist. He did a piece for Fashion Week in '99, 2000 for the Millennium, where he took Mars Pathfinder imagery, and you could put on your 3D glasses and see Mars, rocks pop out of these dresses and stuff. So actually they had a runway in New York. It was in New York for Fashion Week. And I think these clothes ended up selling at Barney's or something, but they ended up just, it was kind of a fun thing that we just helped him with. And in return for just giving him imagery to use, which we give everyone if they want it, all artists can have access to our imagery and footage and stuff. He actually gave us one of the pieces in return that we have in our collection. So I'd like to play that at the end, and then we'll move on to the next person. But thank you so much. I'm very honored to be here tonight.